When most people think of Sierra Online computer games, text adventures and anything with quest in the title is typically going to be the first thing that comes to mind. King's Quest, Space Quest, Police Quest, but a lot of people don't know that Sierra actually dabbled in RPGs as well. They published Ultimate 2: The Revenge of the Enchantress in 1982. However, a royalties dispute with the Ultima series creator, Richard Garriott, led him to branch out and form his own company where he continued making Ultima games, and, well, the rest is history with that. It went on to become one of the most successful RPG franchises of all time, while Sierra was left with, well, nothing much to show for their brief involvement with the series. So they decided to create their own RPG series called Heroes Quest. But that was a little too close to the title of Milton Bradley's popular board game, also called Hero Quest, which Milton Bradley was able to successfully register as a trademark. So Sierra was forced to change the name of the game to Quest for Glory, So You Want to Be a Hero. Although boxed copies of the game with the original title are still floating around out there, and I'd be curious to know if any one of you have actually seen one of these in the wild. Anyway, Quest for Glory is kind of a hybrid text adventure / RPG game that maintains the similar goofy sense of humor that Sierra adventure games are known for, while also adding in a pretty substantial RPG element. Gameplay consists of mostly going around and exploring the land of Spielberg, talking to folks or utilizing items via a text interface, battling enemies, and solving puzzles. However, what sets this apart from other Sierra adventure titles is the RPG system. At the beginning of the game, you have to choose your character type, and you can choose between a fighter, a wizard, or a thief. Not only can you choose your character class, but then you're allowed to allocate stat points to a skills system. Skills will be generally distributed in a way that suits your character class, but then you can also distribute some extra points on your own. It's also possible to build up your character's skills throughout the game by utilizing those skills in some way. So for example, if you stand here throwing rocks, your throwing skill will build up over time. Or if you just sneak everywhere, you can build up your stealth skill. It's actually possible to build your character into something of a hybrid character depending on which skills you level up. For example, my thief character also became a pretty powerful fighter just from fighting trolls over and over again, but he still had the skills of a thief and could pick locks or break into some old lady's house and steal stuff that you can fence for some extra money. Wow, so this is basically like if they made an Elder Scrolls game back in the 80s on computer, and it's just freaking awesome. There's even guilds you can join too. I joined the Thieves Guild, and they give you some extra side quests that you can get into. Different classes also lead to different solutions to the game's many puzzles. This is pretty early in the game, so it's not a huge spoiler, but one of the puzzles involves retrieving this lady's missing ring from a tree. As a thief, you could climb up the tree to retrieve it. As a warrior, you could huck rocks at it, and a magic user might be able to use a special spell to get it back. Sierra billed this game as 3 games in 1, and it really added to the replay value, since if you beat it using one class, there was incentive to play through it again using a different class and see what else there was to offer. And several of the quests can be completed in virtually any order. Now, unfortunately, the skill leveling system can lead to some of the more tedious elements in the game, so you build your skills up by using them, which totally makes sense, but if you have a skill that's lacking, you may end up having to spend a lengthy amount of time just building that one skill up. So for example, you may have to stand here for an hour increasing your throwing skills by throwing a rock over and over and over and over. I'm not even kidding, I think I stood here for 30 minutes trying to build up my throwing skill just so I could complete one quest. So that may be a turnoff to some text adventure game fans who don't want to waste a bunch of time grinding up skills just to complete some random task, and that's totally fair. So there is a story here. The Valley of Spielberg needs a hero. The evil sorceress Baba Yaga has put a curse on the land, which is now slowly being overrun with monsters and brigands, this crazy group of pillagers who roam around wreaking havoc. The Baron's children have gone missing as well, and as these things usually go, it's up to you to deal with all this, while everyone else just sits around complaining about it. You'll spend a lot of time just wandering around talking to folks, meeting interesting characters, and a big part of the game is engaging in conversation. This is not unlike some of the conversation trees that you would see in modern RPGs, although you basically have to figure out what to ask for yourself. There's lots of silly puns, references, and nonsense audiences would expect from a Sierra adventure. For example, when you're trying to enter this mansion to talk to someone important, the gatekeeper out front asks you 3 questions before you can get in, and it's totally a Monty Python and the Holy Grail reference. There's also a day-night transition, and time passes in this game as you play. Certain tasks can only be completed at night. For example, when you first visit the Baba Yaga, she turns you into a frog and nearly has you for dinner. You manage to bargain for your life, but she allows you to live only if you retrieve a specific ingredient for one of her spells. This ingredient has to be plucked at a certain time of night in a certain location, and if you fail or just blow it off and don't do it, Baba Yaga hunts you down and kills you dead. She knows. I also really like the endgame to this story. While most of the game follows your basic high fantasy RPG tropes, monsters, fighting, swords, armor, all that typical stuff, the final stretch of the game is more of a whimsical series of puzzles. Sometimes it's an action sequence where you have to solve certain puzzles in the room in order to pull off the sequence. Sometimes you're solving riddles in an almost circus-like atmosphere. It's pretty over-the-top zany, but in a fun way, and was totally not what I was expecting for the end of the game, but that's what made it fun. So would I recommend this game? Well, if you liked Space Quest or any of the other Quest games, I'd definitely say check this series out. You'll want to start with the first game in the series too, since it's possible to import your character, stats and all, into future games in the series. RPG fans and adventure game fans should love the game's expansive character system, although like I mentioned before, some folks may be put off by having to waste time leveling up stats, and that's a very real complaint. I feel like the good far outweighs the bad with this series though, and it's still totally worth reinstalling if you're into text adventures or old computer games from the 80s. You can find all 5 of these games on GOG.com for like $10 too, so give them a shot. Well, what did you think of this series? Did you play any of the Quest for Glory games growing up, and would you like to see more of them covered here on the channel? What are some of your other favorite adventure games from Sierra or anyone else? As always, thank you for watching. Please don't text and drive, and I'll see you next time on Friday Night Arcade.